Okay. Welcome, everybody. I would like to call the December 17th, 2025 City Council meeting to order. If you're able, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our musicians here, Braden Manhart and Connor West. They're students from Cook Inlet Academy, and they're here to play the Star Spangled Banner for us. So that's our national anthem, so we'll be standing. I do have a little flag right here if we want to stand and face them. So go ahead, gentlemen. Thank you very much for that, gentlemen. And Councilmember Sonart, you had something to do with the organization of this, didn't you? So just a little bit. So thank you very much for doing that. It's good to mix things up just a little bit. Okay. So clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you. Mayor Noxted?
Here.
Councilmember Daniel?
Here.
Councilmember Grimmie?
Here.
Councilmember Askin? Vice Mayor Askin, I'm sorry.
Here.
Councilmember Petty?
Here.
Councilmember Casena?
Here.
Councilmember Sonart?
Here.
And Student Representative Bowling?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Now we have approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Pleasure of council. Vice Mayor Askin.
I move that we approve the agenda and consent agenda as presented, along with laydowns, and ask unanimous consent.
Is there a lay down? That was for the work session, I think. So,
I'll second that.
okay. All right, moved and seconded. Are there any additional revisions to the agenda and consent agenda from the council? Would the clerk please read the consent agenda items into the record?
Thank you, Mayor Noxted. Approval of the regular meeting minutes of December 3rd, 2025, brought to you by the city clerk. New business, action approval, bills to be ratified. New business, action approval, special use permit to Tote Maritime Alaska LLC for truck trailer storage, brought to you by the administration. And introduction of ordinance number 3497-2025, accepting and appropriating a donation to the Kenai Community Library for library materials, wayfinding, and programming, brought to you by the administration. Public hearing scheduled for January 7th, 2026. That is your consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Are there any public comments on any of the consent agenda items just read by the clerk? Anybody online? Okay. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objections? Seeing none, the agenda and consent agenda are approved. So that brings us down to item B, scheduled administrative reports. And tonight we have Joshua Eminger. I believe he's on Zoom tonight, and he is the principal researcher for Prabalski Research, and he's here to talk to us about the Kenai Community Survey results. So I hope I didn't botch your name too much.
No. Can everyone hear me? Is that good?
We can
I
hear
can hear
you.
you good.
Perfect. Thank you. And yes, Immenager just kind of sounds like Schwarzenegger. That's what I always tell people, and it tends to work. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get into the community survey. And I just want to make sure that everyone can see this here. And let's blow it up just a bit. There we go. All right. And can everybody see this right now?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right into it. City of Kenai, we went ahead and did a community survey. And this slide right here kind of goes and shows the methodology of how we reach different residents, right? So we did phone, online, and mail. The mail was one that they could just go ahead and hit a QR code or just go to the actual survey online and put it in themselves. We did it in English. The length of the survey was about 15 minutes. We focused on just City of Kenai residents. We were in the field for October 17th to November 12th, so maybe a little less than a month there. And we did 300 participants. That gives us a margin of error of 5.8%. So question 1. This is an open-ended question. That means we didn't provide this list, right? We basically just asked them, what do you feel is the most important issue facing Kenai today? And basically just, they told us and we coded it. And as you can see from this right here, jobs and economy came out first at 29%. And this is going to be a theme that we see throughout the survey tonight, is just how much jobs and economics and kind of bringing growth and economics into Kenai is just a very top priority for residents. The next two we see are public safety, drugs, crime. So we're used to seeing that fairly in the top 3 usually for most of our community surveys. And then the third one, the only other one that broke double digits is transportation, traffic, and roads on this one. So we asked them kind of a big overall question, right? We say, how would you rate the overall quality of life in Kenai? And what we see from this right here is very good numbers. So what we usually do on this question is we combine the good and the fair, because we take fair as positive. It just basically means you're doing your job, right? We didn't even have to do that on this one. We just went ahead and reported the good because 67% rate the overall quality of life as good in that. Look at this right down here, the orange, 4% rate poor. So something that we like to do here is kind of just take the middle, the gray out, and look at the delta, the difference between the blue and the orange, right? And that is massive, massive. So to see poor only being single digits, 4%, very good numbers. So this is a bit more of a services question, and we later on we'll get into the individual services, but generally we like to just ask, are you satisfied or unsatisfied with the services provided by the city? And as you can see here, 80% are satisfied with the services provided. We're used to seeing this number, I would say usually in the low 60s, high 50s. So the fact that you're getting all the way up to 80% on this is a very, very good number on this one. And again, we like to look at the difference between the unsatisfied and the satisfied. Only 16% are unsatisfied on here. So again, very good numbers. And then when we kind of looked into the crosstabs, it was actually younger residents who were more likely to be satisfied than older residents. Question 4 here is, we just went ahead and asked them, which of the following areas do you think the city's top priorities over the next 5 years? What should they be, right? And they could select as many as they wanted, right? It's not a one choice here. They could select as many of these different priorities as possible. And what we see is we have really 2 big ones, 3 if we want to count that one as well. And the top one is roads, utility, core infrastructure. That came out at 56%. And then what I think is interesting is look at number 2 at 53%, economic development, support for local business. We're not used to seeing that this high, right? So I'm always kind of interested in, okay, what's the unique thing? What is the one that kind of sticks out from our usual community surveys all across America? So the fact that economic development and support for local business is that high, that's a relatively unique thing. And it kind of maps with what we saw in Q1 as well. Now, this is a double question, right? So we begin with, we give them all the services provided by the city, and we say, indicate which of these services, and they can select all that apply, are important to you personally. And as we see here, we kind of have a nice grouping of 4 of them that end up above 50%. Keep the community safe with police, fire, EMS, ensure clean, reliable drinking water, and then number 3, support local businesses to grow the economy, create jobs. And then finally, the other one over 50%, maintain streets, sidewalks, traffic flow. So we're used to seeing basically emergencies, public safety, always at the top. So this is not surprising at all that this would come out number 1. What's interesting to me is support local business, grow the economy, create jobs comes in at 52%. That's again the other unique thing. Kind of follows exactly with what we're seeing in the other questions as well. We give them this same list and we say, okay, you said what was important. Tell us what you're personally satisfied with. Which of these services are you happy with? They're very happy with police, fire, and emergency services. We'll see even more of that when we just ask them directly about that service. 53% are satisfied with that. Care for parks, trails, open spaces comes number 2. Quite a bit of a drop off, but still number 2 there with about 32%. And then ensure clean, reliable drinking water, provide library resources and programs are the other kind of big ones here. And then again, kind of when we look at this, what was important and then what has small satisfaction, right? Because those are our opportunities. That's the stuff that we can really grow on. And look all the way down here, right? Support local business to grow the economy and create jobs. Only 13% are satisfied. And yet 53% were saying this is important to them. This really kind of brings it home. So what we do is we take kind of the importance, we take the satisfaction, and on that right, we take the difference, right? This is kind of what we call a gap analysis. What is the main difference from what's important and what they're satisfied with? And we have a clear winner, right? Look at that difference of 39% there. Support local business, grow the economy, create jobs. This is kind of exactly where your residents are looking, and this is where the opportunity is. Number 2, big delta is manage city finances responsibly. And this is actually something that we're seeing all across America right now. I would say going back about a year and a half, we've seen kind of residents being a little bit more concerned on how their local city is using their tax money, which makes sense given inflation, the affordability crisis, things are more expensive. They're having to stretch their dollar more. They're going to expect you to do that as well. And then kind of rounding it off, we see ensure clean drinking water, maintain streets, sidewalks, and traffic are the kind of the other areas where we see gaps there. But again, the big one is support local business, grow the economy, create jobs. So this is a pretty standard question we do for most of our community surveys. We say, in the past year, have you been in contact with any city employees? And we actually had a pretty quite high amount here. We're used to seeing yes being about maybe 30%. We have 47% of residents that have been in contact with the city. About 50% there say no. So about almost an evenly split there. So we take the people who said yes, right? About half of that sample. And we say, okay, well, how was your interaction? How would you rate your interaction with that employee? 78% rated as good. Very high number. 15%, 16% say fair. You're looking at only 6% saying poor. So whenever they're having that contact, whether it's over the phone, whether it's out in the field, whether they're actually visiting, city departments, they are saying that they have good interactions here and that there is a lot of kind of courtesy and the kind of the almost customer experience, if you will, is very high for people who interact with city employees. Question 9, we say, how would you rate the city's effort to solicit public input and engage residents in policies and programs? Again, we like to kind of put fair and good together here. So we see 81% are saying good or fair. Only about 16% are saying poor on this one. And then when I went kind of looked at the crosstabs, what are the demos that were more likely to say poor? The big divergence, interestingly enough, was gender. Men were much more likely to kind of rate this kind of public input engaged residents poorly. Women were much more likely to rate it as good or fair. So that was kind of the one big divergence we saw among the demos on this one. Question 10. How do you provide feedback or input to the city? And the top one is just pick up the phone and call a general city office number or an employee. And that got us 51% there. So that's by far the most common way to do it. They just pick up a phone and call. Number 2, email. Email a general department, office employee. And then kind of here at 24%, we see communicate directly with elected officials. So there is a lot of that of just kind of, if I see them right there, I'm just going to go ahead and email my council member, so forth like that. And hopefully that gets the job done. But what we see is the big winner is picking up the phone and calling the city and calling the employees. This is a really interesting question. We asked this one quite a bit around, and many cities are kind of interested in kind of, upping their mobile app. And so we asked them, what kind of features would you be interested in to kind of improve city services, communication, community engagement? And what we have is report issues to the city. And just to tell you, this is a pretty common one that rises to the top. What residents really like is kind of having a click it and fix it type thing. They can see a pothole and report it immediately to the city on the app. Great, fantastic. That almost always wins number 1 on these kind of questions. The other ones we have, receive news stories, updates, and emergency alerts. Makes sense. That's pretty a top one for most apps that we have from cities. And then number 3 here at 34%, participate in community surveys as well. So that's something that the city could maybe think about. This is, of course, is a statistically scientific survey, but this might be a way to get better input and engagement from cities as well when your residents are telling you, yeah, I would love to see that in that app. So here we begin to ask a little bit about the individual services. And so we say, are you satisfied or unsatisfied with the city's police, fire, emergency services? 88% are saying satisfied here. Huge number. And again, when we see kind of police, fire, EMS, that does tend to be the service with the highest rated satisfaction. 88% is still very high. We're used to kind of seeing this in the high 70s. So again, the fire, police, EMS, very something to hang their hat on. Very good numbers for this service here. This is an interesting one because I don't think we always get to ask this one, so I was very interested in it. Are you satisfied or unsatisfied with the city's senior services, right? And you have 65% say they are satisfied with it, 9% say unsatisfied, and then probably not surprisingly, we have about a quarter who say unsure because I don't use senior services. I'm 32, I don't necessarily, engage that much with it. So in this report, I thought it'd be interesting to actually show you the crosstab on this question because who would we be most interested when we talk about senior services? Seniors, 65 plus, right? And when we look at the crosstabs here, we see that seniors are actually the ones who say satisfied the most. Out of all of our age demos there, 65 plus, the ones who are actually using the service, they're the ones who have the highest satisfaction. Only 7% are unsatisfied with that. So again, I think it's important to understand when we talk about this service here, how is it affecting the people who are actually using it? And from these numbers, we see that seniors are very satisfied with it. This time we just asked Parks Recreation Services, same thing, satisfied or unsatisfied. 82% are satisfied with this, very high number. Parks tend to be a pretty popular one, so we're used to seeing this relatively high. 82% though is still a very good number. And again, we look at the difference between the blue and the orange, right? Only 10.7% are saying unsatisfied here. So again, very good numbers what we see from the Park and Rec Service. This is same question. Are you satisfied or unsatisfied with the city's library services? Another big winner, 80% are satisfied with it. You only have 7% being unsatisfied, 12% are unsure, maybe haven't checked it out yet. And I wanted to include the intensity slide. So this satisfaction, we say, are you very satisfied or strongly satisfied or somewhat, right? And they can kind of choose. When we look at the intensity here, I'm used to seeing this vary being about 20%, right, on most things. Like we can see the people are unsatisfied, not that many people are very, most of them are saying somewhat. The fact that we have 47% saying very satisfied with the library services, I think it needs to be called out. So again, not only are you getting satisfaction with this, but it's an intense satisfaction. There's passionate side to that as well. Now, this is where things can get a little bit more complicated. So we say, are you satisfied or unsatisfied with the city's efforts to guide land use, manage growth, plan the community development? We have 48% satisfied, about 40% unsatisfied, and 12% unsure. Now, I will say on questions like this that deal with kind of growth, any type of commercial development, residential development, we're used to seeing this kind of split, right? And what we usually see, and what we saw in this one as well, is older people, residents who've been there longer, and homeowners tend to be a bit more unsatisfied. Whereas younger people, renters and so forth, they tend to be a bit more satisfied with kind of the managing growth, planning community development. So again, it's always important to remember on these kind of development questions, not everybody in the city is kind of affected the same way by this. And so it's important to kind of really look at the demographics somewhat on this and see kind of where those divergences, where those bifurcations are happening. Another one here, satisfied, unsatisfied about the city's water and sewer services. 69% are satisfied, right? Only 16% or 17% are unsatisfied. And then you have a decent amount here saying unsure or I don't receive water and sewer services from the city. So count me out here. Again, very, very high numbers on this one as well. I think whenever I looked at the demographics, it was a bit of older residents and residents with a high income who are much more likely to be kind of in this unsatisfied. Almost every other demographic was kind of landing in the blue here, unsatisfied. And then here we ask about the website. Are you satisfied or unsatisfied with the city's website for accessing important information? Here we have a pretty good number. This is about average for what we see all across America. 64% are satisfied with the website. You only have 14% unsatisfied, and then a decent amount who maybe just haven't gone there, unsure. And then kind of when we looked at the demographics here, I think what was most notable about this question is that satisfaction was higher on younger residents, particularly for people under 40 years old. And so they had a much more familiarity with the website, much more likely to use it, and they were satisfied with it. This one is just kind of quick, satisfied, unsatisfied with routine maintenance on streets in the city. 67% are satisfied with routine maintenance in streets in the city. You do have almost a third, 30% who are unsatisfied on this one. And so I think something that will help with this and kind of what we're working on right now is kind of providing a digital map. And what we're going to do is basically map out this unsatisfied so we can kind of see geographically where that is. I think it'll really help us when we kind of dig into this number as well. I bring that up too because we're going to do the same with this one here. We ask, are you satisfied or unsatisfied with snow and ice removal on streets in the city? 68% are satisfied. That number is 28% unsatisfied, lower than what we saw with the routine maintenance on the streets, but still relatively, you know, you're hitting almost 30% there. So that's another one that I think will benefit a lot from kind of mapping out where that is so we can really focus on where those areas are. This was an interesting one too. Satisfaction with the city's property code compliance efforts. So we're really looking at junk vehicles, trash and debris on private property, basically blight in all its forms. And here we see a bit of a split, right? 49% are satisfied with this, but we do have 42% unsatisfied, right? And so this is another one that I think when we get the data for the map will be interesting to kind of see, all right, maybe this is the zones, these are the areas of the city that we can really focus on blight, you know, whether it's a trash pickup or removing old abandoned cars, stuff like that. This will be another one that I think benefits from that. But again, I think this is another one of those questions where we kind of have an opportunity, right? We're seeing 42% unsatisfied. This is something that I think we can really work on to bring that number lower. And then we kind of get more into the economics and housing situation. We ask, please indicate which aspects of the city's economy you're personally satisfied with. The highest one is the quality of Kenai's historical and cultural character, that was pretty high at 40% here, or 39%. And then variety of business and services, a little bit lower. Options for shopping and dining, a little bit lower. And then kind of what we see here, I think, lines up with that Q1 and also the services and the gap analysis, right? Available for good jobs and employment opportunities, you're only getting 21% that are satisfied with that. And then kind of quality of new commercial development. It's not surprising also to see kind of the growth and development also one with less satisfaction, given how we saw those numbers were kind of split when we asked them directly. Now, this one's very interesting to me because I think, again, I love whenever we do a survey and all the data kind of aligns correctly, right? Every question is kind of showing us where we need to go. And this one we asked, what aspects of the city's economy should be prioritized in the coming years? Number one, 56% supporting small business. That was the top one for Q1. That was the one that had the biggest gap between importance and satisfaction. They're being very clear here where they're kind of looking. They want to support small businesses here, and they also believe big in kind of creating job opportunities as well. I think the other thing to look at this that's very interesting is investing in infrastructure, right? We noticed that those kind of the routine maintenance on the streets and stuff like that, that tended to have a higher unsatisfaction than the other services. So that makes sense to see that number two. And kind of these two ones here are really good things to kind of focus on. Here we get to more of the housing availability and affordability issues. And we say, do you believe the city has a housing availability or an affordability issue, right? Do we not have enough housing or are they just too expensive? You had 7 that just said, it's not really a pricing issue, it's an availability problem, there's not enough. You had a good chunk, 39% here, say it's an affordability problem, right? Not an availability problem. The housing stock is fine, it's just too expensive. And then you have a decent chunk here, 35%, saying it's both. It's availability and affordability. If we can go at both of them, that might be the way to go. So we take the people who said availability and both, right? So we're kind of looking at just the people who really focused in on availability as the issue, right? And we asked them, okay, well, what type of housing is most needed in the city? We get 2 big ones that rise to the top here. Single family homes, number 1 was 62%. And coming in relatively high, apartment and rentals at 57%. Now, when we ask this question, you know, most of the time, single family homes is always number 1. It's still kind of the platonic ideal in America. People want the yard, they want the picket fence. What we're not used to seeing is kind of apartments and rentals almost matching it, right? This is usually kind of hanging out in the 30%. So this goes to show that when it comes to housing availability, your residents are looking at both of these, right? This isn't necessarily a kind of apartments versus homes type thing. They're looking at both of these right now. Now, this is, I think, something that at first you might not know it, but you should be pretty proud of these numbers because this is something we don't see, especially in the last, I would say, 1.5 to 2 years of community surveys. We asked them, are you satisfied or unsatisfied that you're getting your money's worth for your tax dollar? And here we have 62% say that they are satisfied with that. I want to say we've seen maybe 1 or 2 community surveys, and again, we do quite a bit of them, where satisfaction was higher, where the city was underwater on this question. Now again, 33% of 30-year residents are saying unsatisfied, something to pay attention to. That said, this is basically the question that we're seeing all across, whether it's California, New York, Colorado, Texas. These numbers are going higher every year we're doing surveys. We're seeing this go up and up and up. People's appetite for taxation, it's just not there, especially in the last 2 years. So the fact that you're seeing this, that 62% are saying, yeah, I think they're doing a pretty good job with, I feel like I'm getting my money's worth for my taxes. Very high number, highest number I've seen all year in 2025. So this is a very good one to look at. That said, doesn't mean they necessarily want taxes, right? We asked them, would you support or oppose raising local taxes to pay for resident priorities, such as just improving services? We get a pretty clear answer here. 57% oppose raising local taxes. You have 36% in support and a pretty small amount, 6% unsure. So again, they feel what their current level is, they're getting their money's worth. That said, they're not really looking for an increase in taxes on them. This is a pretty high number of opposition against this right now. And again, this is exactly what we see all across the United States right now. No appetite for this, whether it's sales, whether it's, parcel, anything like that. You're just not seeing the kind of general desire for like taxation that we were likely to see even just 4 or 5 years ago. So this is a very interesting one. We give them basically a list of different taxes, right? And we say, okay, well, if you're looking at this, if you had to decide, right, which one would you be the most okay with? And go ahead and just pick all the ones that you think you'd be most okay with. And I think it's kind of unsurprising. We have an active bed tax, right? That's not something residents are going to have to pay. Imagine some of the hotels might not like this, right? But again, that's something that residents are kind of looking at. Hey, I don't have to pay this. Get the get the tourists in that can do this. Get the visitors in. They can pay that one. Always a very popular one. Number 2, pursue state and federal grants. I have no doubt that you are already doing that. But again, residents really want to make sure that you are leaving kind of no stone unturned when it comes to getting money from whether it's the state, feds, everything like that. And then we see at number 3 here, alcohol, tobacco, marijuana taxes. Again, that makes sense because it's only going to affect us, a certain amount of residents, right? It's not going to fall 100% on all of them. And then finally, we have here the other kind of big one is establish a seasonal sales tax. If we're going to do a sales tax, make it go up in the summer. Make it go up whenever we have, visitors and the hotels are full and so forth. So we can really get that. Once the visitors leave, let's have it drop back down and only have this for a seasonal thing. And then we kind of have our usual methods, issue bonds, obtain bonds, assessments, an improvement district, right? And then very low numbers for increasing sales tax, property tax, user fees as well. So again, they're basically saying, hit everyone else hard before you hit us, right? And then maybe we can talk. This is the one we asked for, what are their top sources for news and information about the city? Facebook and social media was the number 1, 49%. That's kind of their main one here. The interesting thing for this, and again, I like to point out kind of what makes, you unique compared to other cities. Word of mouth was very high, 43%. We're not used to seeing that really above 20%. And then the other one was local radio. Local radio at 38%. Still quite a bit of people are getting their news from the local radio. That's more than online news. That's more than local TV. So again, local radio is kind of a unique thing where you're at and still a place where so many of your residents are getting their news. Great place to kind of reach and engage them there. And then we kind of come to the end here. We say, all right, kind of thank you for the survey, everything. What, though, is the single improvement that would make the greatest positive impact on the community over the next 5 years? And again, what we see, look at number 1, look at number 2, exactly what we saw in Q1. Pro-business, business-friendly state, business retention, 16%, number 1 there. Number 2, the economy, economic development, jobs, higher wages. You could almost put 1 and 2 together, right? And combine this into kind of its single category. Next, improving infrastructure roads. That makes sense. We saw that on the service issues, kind of what was important to them. And then finally, the other kind of coming in fourth here, housing affordability, high cost of rent. This is something that we're used to seeing all across America, given the kind of skyrocketing prices for houses and rent going on right now. So again, they're being very clear here, right? Business, economics, bring the jobs to the city. That's kind of number 1 on our table right now. Give you a little bit of demographics. Again, we just basically hit census, right? Whatever the American Community Census is, we're kind of making sure that we're hitting that gender just right, that age just right, ethnicity just right. And so part of what makes this a scientific survey is we just basically want to recreate your city in a very miniature form out of those 300 people. And so this is kind of just gives you a little bit of a look of kind of what the residents look like. So that is survey presentation. Thank you so much for kind of just letting me go right through it all like that. And if you have any questions, I will try my best to answer them right now. And if not, I can guarantee that we can dig into the data and I can, email you or provide an answer at a later date.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you.
And the main question I had is not really on the last page, because most of it was looking really good. So I was wondering what the cross-section of your study was. And it looks, is this a pretty even cross-section from your professional experience?
This page right here?
Yes.
Yes, yes. And again, it's basically just what your community looks like, right? Like this is basically just from the census, so we're really trying to kind of recreate that the best we can on this one. So yeah, so again, we're just kind of this information already exists out there, but in order for it to be a scientific survey, we got to make sure we're kind of hitting ethnicity, age, gender, and all these things, right? And so that's kind of what we do is just recreate this the best we can among that small subsample of your larger residents.
That looks good. Any questions from council for Mr. Manager? Councilmember Petty.
Yes, I would just be curious to know how many different city locations did you survey over the past year?
Very good question. I don't believe I have the exact number because I can know what I've done, right? I think at the company, it's been well over, I would say, well over 40, almost 50. So it's a pretty broad swath. And I think what makes it kind of interesting is we're basically all over the place, right? I'm not just kind of picking from one state. We do quite a bit in Colorado. We do quite a bit now in Michigan, do quite a bit in the Carolinas, New York State as well. And then California has quite a bit too. So those are kind of like the main ones where we look at. So when we're kind of looking and comparing yourself to those other places, it's about of like kind of the 50 we've done in the past year or so, spread kind of somewhat equally along those big population states. But if you want, I can go ahead and get the exact number for you. And when I find that out, I can send it forward to the city.
Thank you.
Councilmember Grammy. Don't forget your mic.
I thought I pushed it. On slide 26, at the bottom, 24% answered none of these to please indicate which aspects of Kenai's economy you're personally satisfied with. For that question, did they have to provide an explanation as to what their answer was if none of those? Because, I mean, a quarter of their answers were none of those things. I'd be interested in knowing what 25% of the respondents were finding important that didn't fall into those 6 categories listed.
Yeah, I don't believe we had an open end selected to this one. It was just kind of a single selection, right? You could do multiple ones for the blue, but if you said none of these, that was kind of the only way to do it. Now, something that I think would be interesting that we can do, and given that it's 24%, pretty decent base size, right? We can take the people who said none to this question, and then kind of look at the way they answered the other questions, right? Maybe we take this 24% that said none, and then we can look at what services are they most like ranking importance, or maybe what services are they less satisfied with. Maybe we can go ahead and look at, just take that 24% and code it to the last question here, right? And kind of see what that group said there. That is possibility to do that. So I think something that we could do if you're interested is just take that 24% that said none of these, and then kind of look at their other answers to kind of figure out what might might not like kind of thinking about, looking at kind of the open ends from that and the Q1 open ends. If that's something that you're interested in, we can absolutely do that.
Thank you. I think that would be valuable information given, it falls right in between the second and third as far as percentage of who answered that way.
Yeah. And again, when we see that 24%, if it's like 12%, I'd be like, all right, well, I don't know if the data would show us. 24% is a decent amount, right? So I think that would be something as a segmentation worth looking into. So I'll go ahead and make a note. We'll absolutely do that. We'll kind of look through, see what their answers were on satisfaction for services, importance of services, and then any question that kind of hit on economics, right? The one before this, the one after this, so forth. And we can kind of see, all right, Q22, anyone who said none of these, what kind of are they looking at in the other parts of the survey? And we can begin to kind of figure it out that way.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, any further questions? I'm not seeing any more questions from the council here, but thank you very much for your report. And It's a lot of good data for us to pour over, and it sounds like we might have a few more questions, down the way, or the administration might, just on what some of the data actually means.
Yeah, absolutely. I just also kind of want to say, if kind of a thought pops in your head later, 2 days away, a week away, please feel free to just email us. And then any question you might have, we'll dig into the data. We'll do our best to provide an answer. I know it's a lot of data to get thrown at you, right? Just right now, looking over this. So again, at any date, just email us with any questions you might have, and we'd be more than happy to provide an answer as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Chris Parker to come speak to us regarding the city safety building. He's here from K&A and Design Studios. Mr. Parker.
How's everybody doing? So, yeah, we've performed over this past winter and last fall a assessment, programming and assessment for the police station and fire department as well as dispatch. Appreciate everybody's involvement within that from the fire and police crew. We also had on our design team TCA Architecture out of Washington and T3 Alaska Mechanical and Electrical Engineers out of Anchorage, as well as Nelson Engineering here locally that performed the survey. Let's see. We analyzed the existing public safety building. The building itself was built in 1973. It's undergone a couple additions, mainly the last bay there was built, bay 6, as well as a small addition on the end of the building. But for all intents and purposes, it's been really untouched since 73, with minor renovations throughout. The overall building size is 23,000 square feet. 13,000, roughly 14,000 of that is a fire department, and 9,300 square feet of that is the police department. Let's see, we can kind of go into it, but basically what we've done is, all of our engineers have walked through the building. We've had multiple meetings with the fire and police staff, forming that assessment, seeing the existing conditions. And these next couple slides will show you kind of our findings. Throughout the walkthrough, we found that the roof will need to be replaced within the next 5 years. All the mechanical, electrical equipment throughout the building is really close to the end of life. The boilers have been replaced in 2021, but the rest of the infrastructure is kind of getting close to the end of life on this building. The site kind of needs a little bit more exterior storage, some security within that as well. So some, having some secure gates throughout the facility. On the interior of the building, the majority of the building has like a 10-foot plate height, which doesn't allow future growth. The new systems these days, our building practices, we typically design 12-foot plate heights, allowing new systems, mechanical and electrical systems throughout. So that's problematic with the existing building. There's also hazardous materials throughout the building that are costly to remove throughout it. In the police department, we've found that there's quite a bit of demands for more evidence storage, just storage in general. On the fire side, the sleeping rooms are more of a dormitory style sleeping rooms, which these days we try to get away from that, have private sleeping rooms to avoid any, provide some gender separation, provide privacy. Shower rooms, same type of thing. There's not gender-specific shower rooms and locker rooms. So those are all things that we would recommend updating. The other kind of theme within this facility is, in the fire side, is there's not really a clear designation of separating carcinogens from the fire bay into the living area, living portion of the building. And over the last quite a few years, that's been a big emphasis in design and fire design, is to kind of stop that migration so that firefighters aren't living with those more toxic, chemicals and properties throughout the facility. So kind of, containing those areas and kind of having a clean area as you go through the station. So that would be, right now separating out the bunker gear storage from the locker rooms where people shower and that kind of thing. So the other thing that we see often within this facility, these types of facilities, is exhaust removal. The facility originally had that back in '73, but that system has been compromised throughout the lifetime of the building and no longer in use. So what we found that departments kind of need here within this, doing our studies, throughout all of our different workshops, is, the fire departments, even if it was redesigned, needs a little more space, a larger lobby, unisex bathrooms for the public. Oftentimes we see kind of a triage room right off of the main entry in case somebody comes in an emergency, they can be dealt with quickly. Additional admin offices. Training room is also needed. Roughly 1,000 square feet is what we have programmed for this. Additional conference room for admin, and then a larger kitchen dining room, private sleeping rooms. And then we've got additional apparatus bays, so right now there's 6. They've got room for another additional apparatus bay, and then more parking, more space on site for training. Right now it's a little locked in. We've got some numbers here for kind of existing. So existing right now, that around 13.8 for square footage, and the kind of current and future needs that would add around 10,000 square foot to that facility, so at 23,000 square feet. On the police department side, they also, same type of thing. And a lot of these, we looked at kind of shared facilities as well. So this is kind of a common theme if there is a opportunity for shared facilities, which we can get into more options later. But a larger, secure lobby, having an interview room kind of close by that, people don't have to get into the secure area. They can quickly go into an interview room right off that lobby. Additional bathrooms. We've got, let's see, the dispatch facility could use another workstation. As also, renovations within that for heating and cooling. Right now they're mechanical, need some attention to that as well. A larger squad room, a training room. Again, that's another opportunity possibly for shared facilities, duplicating spaces there. And then another theme is, more storage throughout the facility. We've got a larger wash bay that would be used, and then a fitness center is also desired on this facility. With that, additional secured and warm storage for their vehicles. Right now, there's only a couple that are working that the police department has, and oftentimes those are also used for evidence storage, depending on how much is happening within the facility. So as far as their stats, kind of similar, and something to point out here as well, their growth from originally in 73, 8 personnel, right now they're at 18. I should point that out as far as staff for the fire department as well. They were at 11 in 73, and now they're at 19. The police department area at 9,300 square feet, depending on the size of the vehicle bays and all that, could grow up to that 21,000 square feet. So definitely some ample need for additional square footage within both facilities. So from the assessment, we also looked at kind of that programming conceptual design. So looking at some options on what we could do with the existing facility. So we've got kind of 4 options. We've been through quite a few options, but the 4 that we can kind of go over quickly here is, leaving the building as is, keeping that 23,000 roughly square foot building, renovating it in place. That is hard to do with the 24-hour working facility. So also option 1, if we added on all that square footage to the site, that site becomes, really problematic. So both 0 and 1 options are a hard pill to swallow there, and they're also the most expensive. So adding on that additional square footage would be up to 42,000 square feet. We'd probably look at going 2 stories in some cases, but both of these cases are the highest costs, which total out to be roughly $40 million for the renovation in place and additional square footage. The bottom 2 are new stations. So our new stations we would look at, and we kind of used on square footage wise roughly $1,000 a square foot to renovate in place, dealing with the hazmat materials and also upgrading all the infrastructure, and then $900 a square foot to expand onto that existing building. On the new construction side, you're looking at closer to $700 a square foot we're seeing for new construction. So that same 42,000 square feet would come in at $29.6 million for the new full station. That's the combined. Again, we're seeing if a combined station would work, you would save space on, shared spaces on utilities, mechanical, electrical spaces, as well as opportunities to share fitness centers, training rooms, that type of thing. And then the last option is the kind of having 2 standalone stations, and those could be at 2 different sites. That's still a pretty good value at $31 million, but then you just have a little bit more duplication. So those are the 4 options we kind of went over. We went over quite a few other ones, looked at different sites throughout the city. And my next couple slides are really more in-depth looking at each option. So I'm not going to go through all the, big details for it, but if you guys have questions, we could definitely reference these. Each slide, these last 4 slides, just go more in depth on, option 0, which is staying within the existing footprint. Option 2, adding on to the existing facility. Option 3 is a new combined station, and option 4 is that 2 separate stations at 2 different sites. Yeah. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Parker? Councilmember Sonart.
Thank you, Mayor Nexted. Do you know what the acreage is that the current building sits on?
Let's see, we have 4.6, but that's shared with other buildings. So So we've got 4.4 acres for a new combined station. I would say that, you might be 1.5 acres, 2 acres on the existing facility.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we have these different options. Do you have a recommendation, or is that coming?
Yeah, our recommendation is the, new construction, and it's been awesome to collaborate with both fire and police and see how well they get along. And, to me, that's a good thing. You don't always see that with two different departments. So if they, to me, I think the consensus is to have a shared facility. So we recommend that as well, cost savings and all that. So.
Have you, it probably wasn't part of your evaluation. Of course, earlier tonight, we were talking about the Challenger Center building
Sure.
and the possibility of actually splitting the two and maybe doing some other options. Probably not part of your evaluation, but as a professional, do you have an opinion generally on that? I'm put you on the spot, and if you don't, that's perfectly okay.
I'll get this. Yeah, I think that's a great building. I'd love to look at it and kind of compare what would need to be done. But, are you guys considering, I got a bunch of questions, I guess, for both, moving both departments there or just one, that type of thing?
I'm going to say at this point, we don't know.
Don't know. Okay.
You know.
Sure. Yeah, I could see how it might lend itself a little bit better to police because of, the apparatus and all that. But, yeah, it's a more modern building, which is good. It has good infrastructure within it. So I think it, definitely something to consider.
Thank you for that. I know that wasn't exactly what you were here for, but
Yeah,
it
no.
kind of falls into the realm of what we're talking about
Sure,
right
sure.
now.
Yeah.
Councilmember Casena.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for being here, Chris.
Yeah.
Any lessons learned from a recent station you've been working on that you might apply to this new construction project?
Oh, yeah, there's always lesson learned. Let's see. I mean, I think it's kind of two different pieces, working with two departments and versus one. But, yeah, I think, to me, I think the administration on this side has been, I guess how to put it. I think with the borough, I think there was the borough was trying to understand or try to kind of cap the amount of square footage, the size of the building with CES. And that was quite a bit to work through. So there was a lot of lessons learned on how to deal with that. Whereas I think here there's been a bunch of discovery with, there hasn't been necessarily these big guidelines put on, we need 20,000 square foot for this facility, that type of thing. So that's been a big lesson learned on that facility, designing that facility. But overall, yeah, I've been happy with the Soldotna job, and I think it's turned out really well. I think, we've had, yeah, things are looking good there. So yeah.
Well, thanks for letting me put you on the spot. I would
No problem.
agree that other project looks really good, so nice work on that too.
Thanks.
Well, that's two of us that's put him on the spot so far. Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Parker, thank you very much for your report.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we have no scheduled public comments, so that gets us to unscheduled public comments. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? Anybody online? Okay, seeing none. That brings us to public hearings. The first public hearing before us tonight is ordinance 3496, 2025, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the general fund to provide supplemental funding and utilities and building maintenance costs in excess of budgeted amounts for the Challenger Learning Center, brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember, Vice Mayor Askin.
I move that we enact ordinance number 3496-2025.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. It's moved and seconded. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance 3496, 2025? Okay, seeing no one, bring it back to council for discussion. Council? City manager? Is there anything that you want to add to this point that we haven't gone over?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I don't, I mean, I think we covered a little bit of detail on what those costs were tonight in the work session, but I am happy to try to answer any specific type of questions. But I think at this point, this is our best estimate on what we need to get through this fiscal year. And we'll continue to refine those as we put our budget together for fiscal 27.
Okay, if we don't have any questions, clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor Nakstad. I'd like to let everybody know that Councilmember Daniel did leave the meeting at 6:50, so I will not include him in the roll
Okay,
call.
thank you.
Councilmember Greemy,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Petty,
Yes.
Councilmember Casena,
Oh, yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Mayor Nakstad,
Yes?
Student Representative Bowling.
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes. Ordinance number 3496-2025 is enacted.
Okay, thank you. Now we are on item E2, resolution number 2025-70, authorizing a change order with HDR Engineering, Inc. for preliminary design of the bluff structure access pathways brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Vice Mayor Askin.
I move that we adopt resolution number 2025-70 and request unanimous consent.
I will second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there anyone from the general public that would like to speak to resolution 2025-70? Seeing no one, bring it back to council for discussion. Council? Any questions of the city manager on that? City Manager Eubank, I guess I do, but do you have an idea what the access pathways might look like? Are we just talking bridges, or are we talking about pathways too?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll let Lee correct anything I'm about to say or fill in anything that I don't say. But I think at this point, what we have is a constructed revetment down there with a maintenance pathway on top of it, and honestly, no way to get to it. So what we would like HCR, which is the, designer of record, is to, look at the project area, look at the areas most suitable to provide access down. I don't know what those are. I have my own opinions, but I'd look for them to look at, the soils and all the things that go into selecting the proper place. Make that recommendation and also provide a 30%, I think, design, which gets us to, probably the first level that we can get to provide a cost estimate, and they'll provide a cost estimate based on that 30% design, which will have a fair amount of contingency, I suspect, in it, but it gives us an idea of where it's going to be and what it potentially is going to cost, and then we can look at continuing with that design process and moving towards construction as that bluff continues to stabilize with the toe being stabilized now. Want to add anything, Lee? I think.
Thank you. So in the pathway, I was thinking, would that ravine by the senior center also be a potential option that they might be looking at?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, just my opinion, I'm not an engineer, that's the logical area that I look, because what it provides is that the revetment that was constructed actually is 2 sections. So it's not a continuous piece. So that point would be able to access both sides of it. Just look at the feasibility of that. But for me, that's the logical place. But again, that's what I think we're paying the experts to figure out for us.
Thank you for that clarification. Is there any other questions? Is there, let's see, did we take it out to the public? I did, okay, thank you. I thought maybe I missed that part. Pardon me? Councilmember Petty, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you so very much, Mayor Nakstad. Yes, one of my questions was, because there's two components of that pathway, were they going to make
two access points? And also, is this access point that we're talking about now just for maintenance and not a public access?
City manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Petty. At this point, what we are focused on is the maintenance, being able to go down there and maintain. I think there is potential in the future with additional improvements to the pathway and stabilization of the bluff above. You could see access for the public. Part of our hesitation right now to going to full design and full construction of access down is that we know if we construct access that people are going to find their way down there, and we know there's going to be sloughage from the top right now, which could create unsafe conditions. So we're kind of progressing slowly, but want to continue working on that because we're going to have access down there at some point.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 2025-70 is approved. Now we are on item E3, Resolution 2025-71, approving a cooperative agreement between the Kenaitze Salamantoff Tribally Designated Housing Entity, the Kenai Peninsula Borough, and the City of Kenai, brought to us by legal pleasure of council. Vice Mayor Askin.
I move we adopt resolution 2025-71 and request unanimous consent.
I will second that.
Moved and seconded. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to Resolution 2025-71? Seeing no one. Brings back to council. Any comments, questions? Vice Mayor Askin.
I'd like to hear more from legal, what all this entails. Is it going to be, I understand it's between the borough and the city. Can you tell us a little more about it?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Askin, through Mayor Nackstead. Yeah, I can tell you more about it for sure. So the city and borough were initially approached by the Kenaitze Salamantoff Tribally Designated Housing Entity because they want to build two projects in the city. Actually, they want to build one and buy another one. So they're working on building senior housing, tribally designated senior housing on an undeveloped parcel right now. And they are also purchasing some apartments that they want to utilize as low-income housing. In order to utilize the federal funds that they have, they are required to either get into an agreement with the local taxing jurisdictions, in this case the city and borough, or to attempt to get into an agreement with them. We've met with the borough staff, with representatives from the tribally designated housing entity, and kind of come to this agreement after lots of negotiation back and forth between the city and borough, as well as with the tribally designated housing authority. And it kind of, I think we're at a place where kind of all of our needs are met. They are, in order to not pay the taxes and alternatively pay payment in lieu of taxes, they have to use the structures only for senior housing and only for low-income housing. There's specific income thresholds that they have to meet. So if they don't do that, if they utilize the housing that they want to build or buy, say for market rates or not limit who can use those facilities, then they would become taxable. The other part of this is that it's likely that these buildings, the senior housing and low-income housing, would not be taxable anyway because they would qualify for an exemption under the borough. All the other senior housing, like in Sterling Senior Center, even the city, we're tax exempt because we're the city. Nobody's paying taxes on senior housing right now. They're all exempted by the borough. And similarly, Kenai Peninsula Housing Initiative that the city has donated land to build low-income and senior housing, they're also receiving a tax exemption from the borough. So it's likely that these will or would have anyway. So as long as the use is consistent with senior housing exclusively or low-income housing, it's likely that these won't be taxed, wouldn't have been taxed anyway.
Thank you. Will they follow up, are these going to be only for tribal members, or will it be for tribal and other citizens?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Askin through the Mayor Naxted. I don't have an answer to that. I think the senior housing is intended for tribal senior housing. I don't know that much about the low-income project that they have. I would also just like to let council know that the Borough Assembly has already approved a resolution and authorized their mayor to sign the agreement. Not that that means you have to.
We'll be having a meeting with the Kenites next month, and just something that was said at that meeting, of course it could change because it was a question I had, is, on the senior housing, because they were talking about this specific project a year ago, and they said that it was HUD money and that it would that the housing would be available for anyone at that time. But that would be a fair question to have later. Any further questions? So I guess just pulling this all together between the city manager and the attorney here, the city, this is not city property. They're going to develop some properties, and we'll get no taxes out of it. But the benefits that we would get would be additional housing in our city, and those people that would be here, sales tax, and pretty much just coming and going. Is there any backside for us to enter into this agreement? I mean, it doesn't sound like there's much for negative. There's not much for monetary positive either. City manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I don't have anything to add. I think you have the gist. I think, one clear distinction, though, is that there is the property that they are planning to purchase that is for low-income housing, not new construction of their senior housing, is currently taxable property in the city. That is, will become non-taxable, or they will pay this PILT in lieu of tax on it. But I don't have anything to add to what you're considering in your deliberations.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor
I'll
Nexted.
look down there each time.
No worries. With the property that the Salamentovs are considering buying that is currently private property, converting it into low-income opportunities, does the current residents that's near there, do they have to be notified for that purpose? And is the zoning in that space zoned for that proper use?
City Manager Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Petty. No, there would be no required, there is no change to the zoning in that area. It is currently being operated as multifamily, and this would not change that use, which would then trigger a zoning notification. So no, I don't anticipate any notice to the other property owners in the area.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Grammy?
I have a question, and I'm not sure if this would be for you, Mr. Eubank, or you, Mr. Bloom. So the city would lose tax income on what is currently a privately owned property. We would lose that tax income, which would be a negative for the city. What would be the positives for the city that would maybe offset that as a negative if we were making a pro-con list here?
Mr. Bloom?
Thank you, So what I would suggest as a positive is that the city council in the past has found that low-income housing is a benefit to the community. And the city has donated through direction from the city council, several parcels of land to entities for the sole purpose of developing low-income housing. And so this is consistent with that attribute that the city has placed value on previously.
Thank you.
Councilmember Casena, looks like your finger's on the mic.
It was indeed. Thank you. Just to clarify, we are not discussing whether or not Salamantoff can or is going to buy this property for the development of low-income housing. We are just talking about the PILT. Is that correct?
City Manager?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Casena. That is correct. I think, like Mr. Bloom said, what is required by the funding source that they are using, the federal funding sources, that they either attempt to negotiate a pilot, they call it a pilot, I've always known it as a PILT agreement with the local taxing jurisdiction, at least attempt that. And so that's what they have done.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections?
I'm sorry, Zoom is behaving irregularly. It appears that somebody's hand is raised, but it's not telling me who, but we've only got one participant, so I would like to ask if she's raised her hand.
Let's go ahead and if there's somebody online, if you could state your name, what city you're in, and your question.
This is Lisa Gabriel, and I didn't actually raise my hand.
Thank you. It's telling me somebody's hand's raised, and you're the only one there, so thank you, Ms. Gabriel.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, back again. Any further discussion? Unanimous consent was requested. Any objection? Seeing none, resolution 2025-71 is enacted or approved. That brings us to item E4, resolution number 2025-72, requesting the governor of the state of Alaska designate by proclamation the area of Upper Cook Inlet East Side Setnet Fishery as an area impacted by economic disaster in 2025 and supporting a recovery plan, brought to us by Askin and Gremy. Pleasure of council. Vice Mayor Askin.
I move we adopt resolution 2025-72 and request unanimous consent.
I would second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there anyone from the general public that would like to speak to resolution 2025-72? We do have a hand up. Lisa Gabriel, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Naxted. My name is Lisa Gabriel. I live in Kenai. I'm a director for the Kenai Peninsula Fishermen's Association, who I'm representing here tonight. I'd like to take the time to thank Council Members Askin and Gremy for sponsoring Resolution 2025-72 and the entire council for the consideration of the resolution and for your continued support for the East Side Setnet fishery during the past 7 years of disaster declarations. That support matters in this process. Looking at the resolution, whereas number 4 sums up the disaster impacts to the fishermen. It reads, whereas the dramatic loss of the fishery threatens the livelihood of the individuals, families, and businesses participating in the fishery and jeopardizes the continued viability of the commercial fishing industry in the Upper Cook Inlet region. That statement's pretty powerful. It sums everything up for us. I just want to touch on the 2025 preliminary ex-vessel value. This year, the ex-vessel value was just under 1.7 million, which is a total of an 82% loss of revenue to the fishermen. The ex-vessel is what the fishermen receive at the boat. Current NOAA policy states that if the fisherman suffers an 80% loss, then a disaster has occurred. This year, we had 2 types of gear that fished. We had dip net fishermen out in the saltwater. It was the second year for this type of fishing, 37 permits fished. The X vessel collected by those 37 permits, which represent probably 4 people working per permit. It represented just under $1.3 million ex vessel value. This year, we also were allowed to fish 2 8-hour openings late in August. August 4th, they determined that the recovery goal of 14,250 kings would be met and achieved. So we had 2 openings, August 5th and 6th. 82 permit holders participated in that fishing period. And that X vessel was for 420,000 X vessel for the total of the 1.672326.9. As you know, your resolutions in the past have been a very important part in getting our resolutions passed. The city of Kenai was, they've also lost economically with their fisheries taxes and everything. And so this year we were very happy to see that, although not made whole, the 2018 and 2020 disaster funds were finally reached the fishermen's hands and the municipalities, and hopefully into some of the businesses around town where our fishermen were able to go and buy groceries and repair equipment and things that they haven't been able to do for a while. Anyways, at this time, that's all I really have right now, but I would be happy to take questions.
Does anyone have a question of Ms. Gabriel? Thank you for calling in. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Input. Is there anyone else from the general public that would like to discuss Resolution 2025-72? Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to council. Council discussion. I'd like to say thank you to Vice Mayor Askin and Councilmember Grammy for bringing this forward. And it's a similar resolution that we've had in the past, and I think it's quite unfortunate. And I hope that by going through this process and as things kind of mature, that perhaps we won't have to bring it back again next year. Vice Mayor Askin.
I believe there are in excess of 400 families on the peninsula that are impacted by this. So I strongly support that we go forward with this.
Councilmember.
Even though unanimous consent was requested, I would just like to have roll call and everyone's name be noticed, and
We can do that.
thank you.
City Manager Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The testimony from Ms. Gabriel, she did allude to this, but I did remember today, and I asked the finance director to pull some data. The city did receive funds as a result of 2 prior disaster declarations. Dave, do you have those figures with you?
Yep. Thank you, City Manager, through the mayor. Yes, we received for the 2018 and 2020 a total, it was almost $78,000 total that we received in fiscal year 25 for those 2 years combined. And so the city does see a benefit from this as well. And yeah.
Thank you for those numbers. Any further discussion? Councilmember Grammy?
I just wanted to echo what Vice Mayor Askin said in regards to the number of families that are impacted in our community. And not only does that change their individual circumstances, but it changes what they're spending, what they're doing, what they're giving, what they're participating in within our community, which then is felt by everybody, business owners, charities, schools. Everybody feels that a little bit when portions of our community are without their income source, whether it's their sole income source or partial income source. I think the trickle-down effect there is really important to consider.
Any further discussion? before we do the roll call, I just want to say, I came from a fishing family back in the 60s and into the 70s, but it was the original industry here in Kenai, and it supported all the families. It was the income, it was the work that was here. And in looking back and looking forward, I think that it still has an important part here in our economy, and I'll always support the commercial fishermen in that industry here. So clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Petty,
Yes.
Councilmember Casena,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Mayor Nakstad,
Yes.
Councilmember Grimmy,
Yes.
Student Representative Bowling.
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes. Resolution number 2025-72 is adopted.
Thank you very much. That brings us to new business item H4. Action approval, mayoral nominations for appointments to the advisory commissions brought to us by the city clerk. The following new appointments and reappointments will be for 3-year terms beginning January 1, 2026, and end December 31st, 2028. They are Airport Commission, James Bielefeld and James Zerl. On the Beautification Commission, Sarah Dothett. On the Council on Aging Commission, Kit Hill and Barbara Modig. And on Parks and Recreation Commission, Sharon Fisher and Heidi Reiner. Pleasure of council. Vice Mayor Askin.
I move that we approve the appointments to the advisory commissions just read.
I will second that.
Any discussion from council on that? Is this something we need to vote on or just,
It can be approved by unanimous consent.
okay.
I request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objections? Seeing none, the mayoral nomination for appointments for advisory commissions is approved. So that brings us to item H5. Action approval nominations received for council consideration for appointment to the arbitration panel brought to us by the city clerk. The following nominations were made by city employees. 3 nominees nominated by Kathy Romaine, Senior Center Director, for appointment to 3-year terms beginning January 1, 2026 and end December 31st, 2028 are Jerry Nasson, Terry Turner, and Deborah Myers. 1 nominee nominated by Shelley Sainer, City Clerk, for appointment to a partial term beginning December 18, 2025 and ending on December 31, 2026 is Joan Seaman. Pleasure of council. Vice Mayor Askin.
I move that we approve the nominations for the arbitration panel.
I will second that.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Request unanimous consent.
Very good. Unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the appointment to the arbitration panel is approved. So now we are on item H6. Action approval, mayor nominations for appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission. 4 applications were received for 3 positions opened. The following nominations for reappointment will be to 3-year terms beginning January 1, 2026 and end December 31st, 2028. Those are Diane Fikes and Stacy Kraus. The following nominations for new appointments will be a partial term beginning December 18, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2026, and that would be Alexander Dothett. Pleasure of council. Vice Mayor Askin.
I move that we approve the mayoral nominations for appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission just read and ask for unanimous consent.
I would second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Unanimous consent was requested. Any objection? Seeing none, the mayoral appointments for the Planning and Zoning Commission are approved. So that brings us down to item I, Commission Reports, Council on Aging. Vice Mayor Askin.
Thank you, Mayor Nagstead. The Council on Aging Commission did not meet last month because of lack of staff, and I believe the next meeting is scheduled for January 8th next 2026.
Thank you for that. Airport Commission, Councilmember Sonard.
Thank you, Mayor Nexted. Airport Commission did not meet due to lack of agenda items, so no meeting, no report.
Okay, that brings us to Harbor Commission, Councilmember Casina.
I don't, you know what, I don't know that I attended that meeting if there was a meeting. I think Phil Daniel was meant to attend that one. And it has been sunset.
Guess no report.
Yeah. Lee?
Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did meet, we just had a very short meeting to review code changes associated with sunsetting the Harbor Commission, so those were recommended for approval, and I believe those are moving forward to planning and zoning before going to city council.
Okay, thank you for that. Parks and Recreation Commission, Councilmember Grammy.
There has not been another meeting since our last council meeting.
Okay, Parks and Rec and Zoning Commission, Casina.
I am the council rep on a very busy commission these days, and so we did meet last Wednesday for both a work session and a regular meeting. I will try to summarize this as quickly as possible. The commission held a work session to discuss Municipal Code 1410 subdivision regulations, which focused mainly on alignment with borough, state, and city standards, improving clarity and flexibility. Proposed changes included setting a 30-day review period consistent with borough code, language requiring city council review, updating road and infrastructure standards to reference Public Works road design manuals and the city's water and wastewater development guides, which are in process, and then clarifying easement placements, I believe on the backside of the lots as often as possible. And then some other minor changes and some other code compliance with DEC standards. That was the bulk of the work session. A little sloth figurine here. And then the regular meeting occurred immediately after. There was some detailed public comment raised about the process of conditional use permits and what suggestions they might have on how to improve that in the future. The commission also reviewed a conditional use permit for a bed and breakfast. And commissioner questions focused on traffic, seasonal operations, guest limits, on-site ownership, and operational controls. And this was voted unanimously in favor of. They also reviewed a conditional use permit for a small auto shop. There was mixed public input with comments in support and many comments against. Ultimately, many things were discussed from the commission, but a motion was passed to table this 5-1 until the January 14th meeting. So that leads me to the next Planning and Zoning Commission is scheduled for January 14th at 7 p.m.
Okay, thanks for the report. Beautification Commission, Councilmember Petty.
Yes, they were going to do a winter walkthrough all the lovely places here in Kenai to view it in the winter time. However, we experienced great wind and coldness, so no one showed up. And I was at the AML, and so I did not experience that myself. So anyway, Lord willing, a little further down the road, we'll get out and view the beauty of the winter in our parks. Thank you. And our next opportunity, I believe, is on the 7th, and Councilmember Grimmy is going to help me with that while I'm out of town?
Yes, I am going to cover it, but I just need confirmation when.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Okay, thank you for the reports. So that brings us to report of the mayor. Just a few things. I also was at AML, Alaska Municipal League, last week, and The first day was kind of, it was new for me. I've been going for a lot of years. That was Council of Mayors. And so there were mayors and then others in attendance, and that was a very good educational, a good opportunity for networking and whatnot. And a lot of the rest of the program was as well. One thing that I was pleased to hear, in the networking and meeting with some of the other cities, even here on the Kenai Peninsula, they did comment that, and it kind of maybe showed a little bit on that study that we had earlier here, that they said that they really like coming to Kenai and they wish they had as much going on as Kenai does, that we really are doing great here. So I felt that was a compliment to all of us, so I wanted to pass that on. On December 13th, this last Saturday, I was asked to do opening comments for the Alaska Federation of Republican Women in Soldotna. And well, I'm a city of Kenai mayor, and it's nonpartisan, so basically I did this, but I also did it non-politically, other than I talked about what's going on in the city here. So I kept it to that, just so you know. But anyway, a good group of people, and I was happy to do that. And I guess, well, the last thing I have to say is for everybody here and listening is, if it's happy solstice, that's coming up, and the days are going to start getting longer here after 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, because it's actually just a moment, not a day. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next year. So that brings us to administrative reports. We have City Manager Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Just a few things to report. First, I just want to thank council for its patience and its attention. I know we throwing a lot of information at you as a result of the surveys we're doing and the studies that we're doing, and I think it's really good information, and I think it can definitely assist in making informed decisions. I want to let council know we will we'll email you a different slide deck from the survey that will have all of that additional information on each question by demographic, by, which I think like the presenter showed how that can be really useful. And I think, if that generates more questions, let us know. I also want to get you that public safety presentation, because I think it has, it will answer a lot of the questions, more detailed questions that you couldn't see there on the screen from where at least I can't see from where we're sitting. So we'll get those to you and make sure you have those. If that generates additional questions, just please let the administration know. On the staffing and recruitment front, I'll start with the good news. We want to welcome Dawson Shangen. He's a new equipment operator in the street department. He started with the city on November 24th. We do have active recruitments going right now, including airport manager, the building official, a police officer. Unfortunately, we did receive the resignation of a firefighter just recently, and they'll be looking to fill that position as well. I want to thank and recognize our planning director, Mr. Bootner, for his efforts. He did complete and submit a community development block grant application in cooperation and partnership with Kenai Peninsula Housing Initiative. That would assist with some utility and infrastructure improvements along Redoubt Avenue there that will also have other benefits to the city. So hopefully we're successful in that application, but thank you, Kevin, for that work. We do have 2 joint work sessions coming up with our tribal partners. We'll be meeting with Salamantoff Tribal Council on January 15th, 5 p.m., and they're graciously hosting us in their headquarters. That meeting will be open to the public, just like all of our meetings are, but it's going to be at Salamantoff, and I know the clerk will get the proper noticing out, so appreciate that. The second meeting will be with the Kenaitze Tribal Council on January 28th, 5 p.m., and they also are graciously hosting at their at their Elder Center, and so we look forward to that meeting. I want to thank council for the opportunity for me to attend both the AMMA, which is the Alaska Municipal Managers Association, and the Alaska Municipal League Conference last week in Anchorage. It's good to get with peers and talk about things and hear how other people are solving problems. So I appreciate that opportunity. I do want to take just a second, recognize the efforts of some of our departments. You know, we've had I think, an unusual amount of more high winds, I think, this the last couple of weeks than I think is typical for us. We do continually get some wind, but our street crews have been out there, clearing trees that are knocking down the right of way and blocking things, and we appreciate their efforts. But I think we also need to take an effort or a moment just to thank HEA and its crews. I mean, the work that they're doing is, 100-fold to what some of our staff are seeing. And I drove down Redoubt Avenue a couple weekends ago, and there were 2 trees laying on power lines as I drove down Redoubt, and they were there removing them. So, they're doing a lot to keep our community lit and warm, and just want to recognize those efforts. I also want to thank Elena Spraker with Senator Sullivan's office. She's coordinating some meetings with some federal agencies regarding programs and infrastructure funding opportunities to assist the city with residential and commercial development. City of Soldano will be joining us in that. And the focus here is on, the potential for a gas pipeline and that infrastructure, high demand for infrastructure at that point, and how those agencies can identify funding sources and work with us to help us, potentially tap into those. So really appreciate Elena coordinating that for the senator. And then I think last thing I'd like to say is I just want to say thanks to the city employees. I mean, I think when you look at those survey results, some of the things that I pull out of that is definitely some areas I think that we have to work on, some areas of focus that we can take some direction on. But I also think it shows the effort of our city employees and the quality of our city employees when such a high number of people are satisfied with their interactions with the city. And that's something we really stress to our folks, that we are here to serve. And I think our people do an amazing job. As a staff, we did kind of summarize that those that are unsatisfied are probably the ones that had negative interactions and got arrested by our police department. But we have no proof of that, but that's what we're speculating. But seriously, I think we have an amazing group of people, dedicated people that work here at the city, and I just want to recognize them, especially this time of year. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the city manager? That what you just said was kind of a double-edged sword, because it said, they were doing the city's doing a really good job, but then, that if they're doing too good of a job, resting. But anyway, thank you very much for your report. City Attorney Bloom.
Thank you, Mayor Nexted. I would just like to report, back in 2019, the City of Kenai, City of Soldotna, and the Kenai Peninsula Borough were pretty instrumental in starting the Alaska Remote Seller Sales Tax Commission. And I am happy to say that I have been a board member since it started, and today was my last board meeting. So I am no longer a board member, but Jennifer Anderson from our finance department took my spot on it. She was actually elected at the annual meeting this year, and so she'll be taking over. It's great that we still have seats for Kenai, Soldotna, and the borough, because we have a big say in shaping how that commission continues to grow. That's all. Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. Bloom? Seeing nobody, City Clerk Sainer.
Thank you, Mayor Nexted. I would just like to point out, after tonight's appointments, we still have several vacancies remaining on our arbitration panel, Beautification Commission, Parks and Rec Commission, and Council on Aging. And I would also like to thank you all for the opportunity to attend the Alaska Association of Municipal Clerks Conference, and for your support over the last year with me serving as the Communications Director. I'm happy to say that a replacement was successfully elected at the conference, so I am no longer a board member. and I am available for questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. That brings us to item L, additional public comments. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak or address the council at this time? Anybody online? Okay, that brings us down to council comments. Student Rep Bowling.
First again. Good evening, Mayor Naxted and council
I
members.
expect that.
Yeah. Kenai Central High School Student Council hosted our second drive-in movie of the year yesterday evening. KCHS Site Council had a meeting today at 5 p.m. Topics discussed include attendance, sports, capital improvement, and standardized testing. Strive for 5, our attendance initiative, is going extremely successful so far with higher attendance rates. We look forward to seeing council members Cassena and Grimmy in the next week and month to visit our leadership class. And KCH Wrestling is going to state. I believe 14 students will be going to MCCA in Anchorage to compete. Thank you for your support of Kenai students, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Sonard.
Thank you, Mayor Naxton. Just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and to acknowledge all of our community members that played and performed with the Kenai Peninsula Orchestra this past weekend. We did a concert here at Kenai Central on Saturday afternoon, and then those of us that live in the Central Peninsula, we traveled down to Homer on Sunday and did a concert for that community down there. And it's just cool to have the orchestra back together. So anyway, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Okay, Vice Mayor Askin.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Mayor Nagsted, sorry. I get to mess it up this time. I want to thank the city and the council. I also attended the mayor's and vice mayor's meeting in Anchorage. It was very encouraging to know that there's other cities that are experiencing some of the same problems we are, but we seem to be, I think, ahead of the curve with everything. I also attended the next day at AML, and the individual meeting I went into was pools, parks, and play, and the tremendous expense it takes to manage a pool and the time, and there's a lot of communities facing the very real possibility that they're going to have to close their pools. So I'm hoping that we can come up with an answer. And Mr. Todd from the City of Soldotna Parks and Rec gave an overview on the new field house. I also would like to thank our city employees. The survey, I think, speaks very highly for what we do, and we have people come in here who are very negative, and I think that's just the really loud minority. I think it certainly proves that we provide good, solid services. December 21, fish are coming. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Okay, Councilmember Cassena.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to share today. I am looking forward to meeting with the high school leadership group. Maybe a little nervous to be in front of a whole bunch of high schoolers. But yeah, other than that, just wishing everyone a Merry Christmas and thank you for being here.
Okay, and now we have Councilmember Petty.
Thank you, Mayor Naxted. I would like to say that I was greatly benefited in attending AML and say thank you for the opportunity to be there and learned of some grants that I'm going to share with some different departments. And also, in one of the conferences that I went to, some of the challenges that some of the municipalities are facing are running in the negative, and I'm so very thankful that that's not the case for this great city, the city of Kenai. I want to say thank you for the community members who are stepping up to serve on commissions and serve our city, and thank you for doing that. It takes time and effort, and your input is greatly appreciated here on the council and in the city. For y'all to know, this is the last weekend that Triumphant Theater is hosting White Christmas, and it's a play for our community, which is absolutely stellar. If you haven't gone, I would highly recommend it. It's 5-star, and it's a brilliant time together with our community. So I'd like to say Merry Christmas, God bless you, and I'll see y'all next year.
Okay, we have no executive session or pending items. Oh. I did?
It's okay, I know. I saw Mr. Bloom give you the big elbow over there, yeah.
It worked.
I also attended the Alaska Municipal League Conference last week for 3 days to include the newly elected officials day. Lots of speakers over topics that I guess hadn't even really occurred to me before, so opportunity to learn a lot to think about. I think my biggest takeaway from that would be winning the grand prize in the clerk's raffle for a trip to Juneau, so that was a nice little win for me. I think the public opinion survey told us what we all know. Kenai is a pretty great place to live and to work, and I'm glad every day that this is where I am and where my family is. And I think it speaks to the great work that all of our employees are doing and all of our residents too. There's a lot of pride in Kenai, and I think it shows, and I think other people see it. I'm looking forward to basketball season kicking off this weekend, the KCHS tournament, 14 teams this year. There'll be lots of great basketball to watch, and Merry Christmas.
Okay, now I'm hesitant. I'm not missing anybody, am I? Okay, good. Okay, we have no executive sessions nor pending items. That brings us to adjournment. With no further business before the body, we are adjourned.